Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today, we've got a pretty exciting one because, well, Nazjatar has been revealed, N'Zoth has been teased. That stuff's all going to happen within the next year, but what's going to happen after that? Because the faction war will be over, we might have dealt with a few of the remaining enemies in the game. What are we going to have left? So, today, I am going to lay out multiple possible expansion themes and the stuff that could be happening for the future of both World of Warcraft and I suppose the Warcraft universe itself. Now, before we get into that, we're running out of days in December, so our December stuff for the Patreon, if you want to check that out, link down below. There's a bunch of, holiday, there's content on Patreon over the next few days, so big thank to them for supporting. Check it out down below, and with that, let's talk about the future of WoW. Okay, we've got to kick it off with Elune. This might seem a bit loopy, but believe me, there's more here than you might think. There's a lot going on. We actually don't know a lot about Elune, but there has been a lot of speculation based on her constantly being referenced over the last few years. First, in Legion, Khadgar speculates that Elune created the Prime Naru. That's pretty damn large. It means that Elune existed before the Naru and shaped them from the light, suggesting that Elune is of a similar tier to the Void Lords themselves, or maybe it's something different entirely, but it's a new thing in comparison to what we know now. Then the Shadow Priests, they try to use Xal'atath at Elune's shrine, and they're killed, and then Zal quips that Elune is an upstart goddess.
My mistake. It seems the upstart goddess still holds sway here. Oh well.
That's kind of interesting. It also links the Naru, who are referred to by Xal'atath as being long-lost brethren.
They are merely beloved brethren that lost the true path. They will return to their masters in time.
Now, if the Naru are long-lost brethren of Zal, who is a confirmed old god, then it suggests that the Naru were created by what? A rogue Void Lord? Does that mean that that's what Elune is? Is Elune a light old god? Like Lothraxion is a light demon? It's definitely teasing that there is something very odd going on with Elune. Now, whatever's up with that stuff, she also does seem to have some sort of titanal, connection going on. She taught the word Kalimdor to the Dark Trolls, and yeah, Kalimdor is a Titan word. One of the pillars of creation is the Tears of Elune, and unlike all the other Titan pillars, it's not named after a specific Titan. It might match up with Aenar, who indeed we see hiding on a planet called Elunaria. Then in patch 8.1, Tyrande invokes the Ritual of the Night Warrior and gets all empowered by Elune. We see an eclipse. Of course, Elune is associated with Azeroth's larger moon. Now, this is astrologically very odd indeed. I think the main point here is that Elune is associated with the moon and the moon turns black. Then the moon well that Tyrande uses also turns black. This shows another side to Elune that is quite a bit more dark. Now, if Elune is a light being and this is a void-related thing, what does that mean for the plot, for Tyrande, for Elune? Overall, there's a lot of mystery involved with Elune. We don't know exactly where Blizzard will go with this. It could go in many directions, but what's clear is that they are making narrative moves here, and this could be the impetus for a future expansion. Location-wise, we already know Elunaria exists. We then have both the moons of Azeroth. We still have the remnants of the Argus portal, which is still shining in the sky today, and indeed, a WoW developer recently tweeted that if that light goes away, we should feel very concerned. Which seems like a tease to me. So, that's what's up with Elune. There's a massive mystery box, and I'm pretty sure they're going to crack it open in the near future. Next, we have life and death. These have only increased in prominence as time has went on, and it's almost hard to know where to start with this one, because basically we know that light and void are like the most fundamental forces. We then have arcane and fel, which seem to be order and chaos. We see fel on the same alignment as death, and order in the same alignment as light. What's interesting is that the Shadowlands, which are the realm of death, only came about once mortal life was brought to Azeroth. Now, we know that the Emerald Dream was shaped from the natural dreams and the mind of Azeroth herself, Azeroth the World Soul, so it seems like the Shadowlands must have very similar origins. So this sort of paints life and death as being younger variants of arcane and fel, or at least derivations of that, and at the very least, both parts of a Titan. Now, this is interesting because of the current game lore. Bomsamdi says that he has a boss. Now, Bomsamdi is a death deity, so if a death deity has a boss, then, yeah, the rabbit hole goes deeper. So his boss is likely the one who created the Shadowlands from Azeroth, just like how Aenar created the Emerald Dream from Azeroth. This boss of Bomsamdi is very odd indeed, and when we look into the lore of patch 8.1, well, Rastakhan made Bomsamdi the patron Loa of his bloodline. And that was in a deal, the specifics of which are a mystery to us. Now in the Horde questing, Bomsamdi, of course, he reveals that he has a boss, and he also is alarmed that the spirit of Vol'jin has went missing, or that something odd has happened with it. In 8.1, we find out through the questing that, we ask around, who installed Sylvanas on the throne. Was it Vol'jin? And neither Bomsamdi, the Lich King, or Aer know what's up with Vol'jin's soul, and none of them were involved with suggesting that Sylvanas should be war chief. Indeed, they don't like her because she tends to keep the souls that she kills. So Bomsamdi has a boss. This boss has been denied the spirit of Vol'jin. Vol'jin's spirit seems to have been yanked away by a mysterious character of some sort, who's maybe this Shadowlands creator character who's Bomsamdi's boss. As for Sylvanas, well, none of the death forces we know of installed her on the throne. The Void clearly hates her, stating that she serves the enemy, and in BlizzCon, Alex said that Sylvanas would regard Garrosh as being an amateur with what he wrought upon the world. Then we see the creation of the new light-based undead with Kalia Menethil. Uther's tomb was mysteriously revamped. Talanji is a light-wielding priest who is now in a pact with a Loa of Death. These themes are cropping up absolutely everywhere. Blizzard are also running out of villains, but here, in this storyline, well, we've already confirmed one big mysterious new character, Bomsamdi's boss. Is that a counterpart to Elune? Is it another aspect of Elune? It's impossible to know, but it absolutely could lead to the major narrative impetus of an expansion. We then have the Lich King in Northrend. We've got the Shadowlands themselves, which have not been fleshed out at all in the game. Just like how Battle for Azeroth is a Horde versus Alliance expansion, with some undertones, I absolutely think it is possible for a life versus death themed expansion, and who knows, both of them could probably have a side of the Void. Next, Nile Ophir, so the sleeping city of unnamed crimes, the home of the old gods. Which old gods though? Azeroth's old gods, or all of the old gods? Because old gods are just a name that we apply to a category of hostile enemy who is spread throughout the galaxy, the entire galaxy, with their purpose being to infest worlds where, they find a Titan world soul and they corrupt it. So first, we haven't heard of any other corrupted Titan world souls. Maybe that's because they have not appeared as villains, or it's because Sargeras' Burning Crusade was able to destroy them all before they could be corrupted. Either way, we constantly hear about Nile Ophir. Its nature, exactly though, is a mystery entirely. The most simple read is that Nile Ophir is a location on Azeroth, and it's important to the Azerothian old gods. Maybe it's the center of the old Black Empire. But that doesn't necessarily make that much sense. The Black Empire was really a collection of factions who were locked in an everlasting war. Because at that time, the old gods were all warring with each other because they loved the chaos. So, does it make sense for them to all have a shared home in Azeroth? I would suggest the Nile Ophir could be a cosmic location. After all, just look at Blizzard's inspirations when making the old gods. It's the cosmic horror works of H.P. Lovecraft. Azathoth, the blind idiot god of Lovecraft's outer gods, holds his court, the center of the cosmos. Could there be a Warcraft equivalent? A central court of the old gods? We know that the old gods are basically a parasite sent throughout the cosmos by the Void Lords. So do they have a point of origin? Or center of power? It might actually make sense to have that be a thing. Nile Ophir could absolutely be a central part of a future expansion and the broadening of the old gods past just the Azerothian crop. Well, that could be the narrative impetus for something really massive indeed. And I'll leave you with this. Xal'atath was revealed as an old god being trapped in the Blade. This happens during the Crucible of Storms, so you haven't seen it yet in-game. She is eventually freed, she gets a body, then she comments on how the cosmos is open to her. The cosmos. So that seems like a bit of a hint to me. Next, the backside of Azeroth. So, yeah, let's talk about the rear of Azeroth. It's purposely kept mysterious to us, but first we need to talk about perspectives. The Vindicar is parked very close to Azeroth, very close indeed. So, looking down from the International Space Station, you can really not see that much of Earth. Now, looking at Earth from geostationary orbit, you can see a lot more. And then if you look at Earth from the Moon, you see even more. Well, what does this tell us? From the Vindicar, we can only see a small little circle of Azeroth, a small field of view. The only bits of the planet's rear that we kind of can see from there are shrouded in this cloud cover. Blizzard have been very intentional with all of this stuff. The Vindicar is actually so close to Azeroth that it can only see the top half of Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms, with Blizzard positioning it along Azeroth's axis, such that much of the known areas are shown as possible, while showing as little of the unknown areas as is possible. possible. Now, we're told that ships that venture east of the Eastern Kingdoms and west of Kalimdor never return. There's got to be a reason for that. They don't just get lost. The boring one is that the ocean's just too large to cross. They run out of food and they die, but that's pretty boring. I think it's far more likely that something's there. I mean, if all these ships aren't returning, it's got to be something nasty. I mean, hell, like Nile Ophir could even be an Azerothian location, and that would make sense to explain this. But finally, though, I would speculate that Ashara could end up traveling there. It's very unlikely, in my view, that we kill her in patch 8.2. Instead, I think she will either betray N'Zoth, or that N'Zoth will betray her. Either way, it will result in her being kind of freed and fleeing to the backside of Azeroth. Maybe. I think that could happen. Perhaps she could already have spread forces back there. Maybe she found a continent there. Hard to tell, but it's basically so undefined that Blizzard could do whatever they want. Imagine, we could land there to face whatever new threat we find. We would be allying with civilizations born from the survivors of centuries-old expeditions. It would be an opportunity for something wholly new and unseen. I think it would be really, really cool. So I kind of hope that's one that they actually do. Next, Legacy of the Void. StarCraft jokes aside, this is the most directly teased expansion layout. Patch 7.3 was full of ethereals. It introduced, of course, Ilaria and her boring husband, along with her far more interesting mentor, Locust Walker. Now, Locust Walker is conceptually interesting because he's a Void wielder who's not been taken by the Void, unlike so many of his compatriots. Locust Walker, of course, isn't his actual name, and what we do know is that he's a powerful enemy of the Legion. When fighting them, he came upon Lothraxion, and presumably through the Void's ability to see possible realities, he saw a bright destiny for Lothraxion, so Locust Walker spared him, and Lothraxion then went on to point Ilaria in Locust Walker's direction when she wanted to learn more about the Void. Now, his broader role and motivations, they've been kept a secret purposefully, and he's a member of a very interesting race. There's a lot more to the ethereals than just reforging our gear and giving us good luck tokens. Their homeworld of Karesh was destroyed by the Void in a process that stripped their souls from their bodies, but gave them enough power to not really need their bodies. They, of course, were able to basically bind themselves in like the enchanted cloths that you see them wearing. Now, some of them are our friends, and some of them have been fully taken by the Void and are our enemies. So Karesh is a possible location that we could visit. The ethereals could invade. There's actually a lot of interesting speculation also about the state of Azeroth's satellites. We've seen, Lunaria, there's the moons, there's further speculation that has been fueled by the various cosmic charts that were shown throughout Legion. Then, of course, there's a skybox from the seat of the Pantheon. So, yeah, the Burning Crusade was one cosmic expansion. Argus was a sort of one as well. Maybe in the future we could have something that is expanding us into space. It could be that we would fight the ethereals and go to Nile Ophir and have that all be wrapped up in the same thing. I actually think that maybe a merger of ideas in this video is a bit more likely. So rounding it up, there are 5 different expansion ideas here, and they have a fair amount of overlap. There are potential flavors of space expansion that could involve the old gods or the ethereals, or they could all be worked into the same thing. We then have big concepts, like Elune and like Death, that could drive their own expansions, or act as substantial B-plots. For an example, if the old gods were to have an expansion, that could easily work in Death. Or maybe, a cosmic Nile Ophir, or a Nile Ophir in the backside of Azeroth, and that could involve the existing Azerothian old gods being resurrected. There's a lot here with these ideas. What I know is that Blizzard have been constantly opening up the possibility space with the in-game narrative. We've killed off so many of their main villains, but as this video shows, there are so many directions the plot could go. And, well, they're the main directions. There's also things like maybe Rathian, who's trying to kick off his new Dragonflight. There's my wacky Hollow Azeroth idea from a while back, and there's the possibility of Azeroth maybe successfully being corrupted, and that kicking off a whole big new drama. There's a hell of a lot of stuff that could happen. I think these are many of the main ideas encapsulated into one video. So, let me know, what would you like to see? What do you think could happen? What are your theories? Tell me down below. Thank you very much for watching this video, and yeah, with that one, I'll see you next time.